Oh, it's not just an emerging topic of discussion, blockchain. It's completely reordering the global economic system as we know it, potentially. You know, October 24th, for those of you who don't know, of 2019, is Global Blockchain Day. It's really China Blockchain Day. It's the day that the DCEP, the Digital Currency Electronic Payment System, was unveiled. And in a matter of weeks from now, Shenzhen and Suzhou are going to be the two test beds. And when the Chinese test stuff, they test stuff. You know, it's designed for 300,000 transactions per second. What's Libra got, 1,000? What's Visa? It's a completely different way of doing digital assets. And you don't have to be online. It's a really interesting thing because they can also scale up like nobody's business. And we're busy pussyfooting around with whether we want Libra or not, or what, you know, what's a security, what's a utility, what's a commodity, who should be regulating. The Chinese already figured all that stuff out. You know, there are a number of players out there, state actors and non-state actors getting involved, but as state actors become more and more involved, as the governor of the Bank of England starts to look at it, and as other Bretton Woods founders of our current international economic system get engaged. And now the People's Republic of China, with its own sovereign coin, backed by the renminbi, part of the system, is not the Marshall Islands with SOV, the SOV, or the Petro in Venezuela, or the Iranian sovereign-backed or stable coins, whatever you want to call them. There are now bigger players, dominant players, who are using it for legitimate, not illegitimate means, and I mean the DCEP in China. And the rest of us are lagging behind. Now, in terms of exchanges and some of the technology, the Japanese, the South Koreans, the Taiwanese, not just the Chinese. Obviously, Singapore is a huge hub, more because of tax than other reasons, but it is a regulatory sandbox to some degree. But we shouldn't be looking at the dumbing down or the selling of jurisdictions as a compliant. Everybody shouldn't be Delaware in terms of setting up corporations. And I don't mean to badmouth Delaware, but you go there because there's less paperwork, it's less expensive to create a corporation. Well, likewise, when it comes to exchanges or ICOs or other forms, competition law, tax law, we need to start regulating this in a better way and harmonizing rules so that we aren't playing the beggar thy neighbor rule, where we're trying to dummy down our work so you get more investment into our space in our country that's got more lax compliance provisions. That shouldn't be the yardstick by which you measure this stuff. This is of global import, and so we shouldn't have fly-by-night stuff. We don't want narco traffickers to use us or terrorists to use. No, of course we don't. But that's not what all of this is about. If we see everything through the lens of law enforcement and guns and badges, is we're not seeing in terms of all the other things that this could be. So we're crowding out. What does it mean? It means that the United States may not be the jurisdiction of choice to set these things up. So we become second rate in terms of our fintech, in terms of the future of finance, in terms of what it also means is that the US dollar may one day not be the reserve currency for the world. It's really important to understand the geopolitical context in which all of this is happening in terms of national industrial policies. Professor Kim, I heard, explained how moving from the industrial to post-industrial to the information society that we now live in, where data is king or queen or royalty of some sort. We're in that stage, and that's the bigger conversation. So we have to ask ourselves in forums like the San Diego Blockchain Forum, but also all through the West Coast, around the United States and internationally, what kind of data are we willing to share? How can we have sovereignty over our own data, and how can we have that sovereignty over our own data and monetize it through micropayments, just participating? How can Indigenous people who can't get to international financing through the World Bank, how can they get access to loans and credit and so forth? How can women's groups or student groups be part of this? How can we engage people in the global economy and that they can get a fair shake at it? That's only the start of it. But if we can do that, imagine what society, international society, can be. So it's monumental. The Chinese have been doing this since 2014. This is not new to them. They've been studying everything. They've been waiting. And then they launched just a few weeks ago. And now it's happening. And it's in 2 cities. And it's done at a macro level, not, well, we're testing our mainnet, you know. And I think we can get, you know, our transactions per second is, you know, they're all getting hernias trying to raise it. This is on a massive scale. And they're interfacing with WeChat Pay and Alipay. They're interfacing with state-owned enterprises. They're interfacing with the biggest of the tech in the People's Republic that have been grown for this. And now they're able to put over each layers upon layers. Hey, you got a deck for health? Okay, we'll get the biggest healthcare company in China. Or hey, how about China Construction Bank? Or hey, how about China Mobile? And we're just gonna layer all that stuff over and use it all through and deploy it through blockchain. That's not even contemplated. And we're busy saying, well, the company that's lost 7 million users' photos, do we really trust them with crypto? We don't have a national strategy or even a Western strategy on this as a counterweight. So the fact that we're having this conversation says that we're already behind the ball. What this all means is that there are either going to be 2 internets and 2 public ideas of what is the future technology. One that's going to be allegedly interested in human rights and privacy rights. We still haven't figured any of that stuff out. Maybe we'll use trade law, maybe we'll use competition law, maybe it's the FTC, maybe it's the SEC. We don't know how we're going to regulate. Maybe it's in a whole new agency. We're not getting to there yet. When the Chinese are doing all this other stuff, they're going to be able to efficiently provide society with the goods that they need. And it's not just in China. It's in the 71 countries that they've signed agreements with that is part of the One Belt, One Road initiative, which is a massive infrastructure initiative. And you'll have end-to-end everything from security to customs harmonization to logistics in terms of transportation to finance to the human resources necessary to do it and insurance. It's all layered and it's all integrated. It might not respect privacy like we might do in the West, but it's going to be a much more integrated, invasive to some, but a much more efficient system than anything we're going to do because we're still futzing around. You know, you can look at how Congress has tried to lead the issue in terms of the hearings related to the Libra, with Mark Zuckerberg trying to go to different congressional committees to try and make the case for doing the Libra, and you're seeing pushback. Maybe Libra's not the right first step. Maybe that's not the true American response or American meta project that can compete with China's DCEP. But it's something, because the United States doesn't have a strategy for this. They don't not have a strategy. They're purposely being vague about it. Now there are bright lights out there like Hester Pierce, the crypto-friendly so-called crypto mom of the SEC, one of the 5 commissioners, who's super smart about these things and understand that financial technology is the next place, just after like how blockchain should be used for healthcare first. There are going to be a series of areas, industries, healthcare and finance first, before we get to the fancy stuff. But we're, before we can fractalize a piece of a Picasso painting. We're not quite, we should think about those things. We should design a system that can encompass all those things in terms of the regulation. But if we're caught up in, is it a commodity? Is it a currency? Is it a utility? Is it a security? And that sort of axis of understanding the problem, the Chinese are so much further ahead of us as we continue to navel gaze. I get that it's sometimes better not to be the first mover as a regulator, but there has to be leadership taken.